Mayday, here. 782, we have the smoke in the cabin.
Channel 782, the track, final maintain.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the February 2024 transmission of Galactic Terrors, the online reading series that scours the known universe for scary stories, strange tales, weird horror, and all sorts of literary oddities from the most imaginative authors writing in a variety of fascinating genres. I am James Chambers, here tonight with Carol Gyzander.
Hello, everybody. Happy day after Valentine's Day, if we want to talk about the ultimate horrors. Oh, sorry.
We were just chatting about that behind the scenes, and it does get a little scary. So we hope everyone survived the Hallmark holiday of love. But welcome to what is actually our first broadcast for the new year for 2024. We did skip a month in January for various reasons, mostly because both Carol and I were inundated with various work obligations, writing obligations, personal obligations, and obligatory obligations. Just couldn't quite pull it together, but we are back on track. And tonight we are starting the year with a fantastic special presentation of Galactic Terrors featuring SVP'S Little Black Book of Terrors and an all-star lineup of readers, including Kirk A. Johnson, Denise Tapscott, Marc L Abbott, Teel James Glenn, and I think, I don't know, maybe is SVP going to be doing a little reading? We'll have to find out.
Oh, I can't wait to see. Yeah.
But for those of you joining us who have been here before, welcome back. We're always happy to have you. If you're here for the first time, Galactic Terrors takes place on the second Thursday of the month, every month, most months. We are going to be flexing the dates a little bit as we are this month, and I think next month, right? Because of some scheduling conflicts, but we'll certainly keep you up to date on that. And the best way to stay on top of those changes is to sign up for the Galactic Terrors newsletter.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the important things, I did have a Southern mom, and she used to cook fried spam, but I do not believe in sending spam newsletters, so we don't overwhelm you. We send one in advance and one the day of, just to kind of remind you and give you the links, just in case you don't have them handy. So please find out more about what's coming up and keep in touch that way.
You can also click subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is another great way to get notifications about upcoming broadcasts and keep the lights on this whole internet machine.
The gears are working. And I find it very exciting. You know, there's a number of people who join us live for these shows, but we have many, many more people who, for whatever reason, can't be here live and tune in and catch the replay. So just keep that in mind for the future. If you're not able to watch the live show, you can watch it later.
All right. So we are doing a special Galactic Terrors presentation tonight, as I mentioned, to spotlight SVP's Little Black Book of Terrors. And there's a story behind the book. There's a cause behind the book. And I think we have a special guest host to come on and join us tonight to talk about all of that. Carol, do you want to clue everyone into who is going to be on with us?
Yes. Well, one of our folks, Brooklyn native Steven Van Patten, is the author of the critically acclaimed Brookwater's Curse trilogy that features an 1860s Georgia plantation slave who becomes law enforcement within the vampire community. In contrast, the titular character in his Killer Genius series is a modern-day, hyper-intelligent Black woman who uses high-end technology as a socially conscious serial killer. SVP's well-reviewed short fiction includes contribution to nearly a dozen horror anthologies, including the Bram Stoker Award-nominated Under Twin Suns as well as Even in the Grave and Tales from the Canyons of the Damned. A collection of short horror and dark fiction stories entitled Hell at the Way Station, published by his company Laughing Black Vampire Productions and co-authored by celebrated storyteller Marc Abbott. The sequel, Hell at Brooklyn T, which introduces Sword and Sorcery writer Kirk Johnson, was released in early 2021. When he's not writing, he can be found stage managing television shows in New York City, along with being a member of the New York chapter of the Horror Writers Association. That's us. He's also a member of the Directors Guild of America and professional arts fraternity Gamma Xi Phi. His website is laughingblackvampire.com. Steven Van Patten, come on, join us.
Oh yes, I love that. That's like I released a mixtape. Oh my God.
That is such a great picture of you. I love that picture.
Oh, thank you.
It's like you're standing out and you're owning New York City. That's very cool.
Well, that would be a lot of money. Ooh, inflation.
It's getting more affordable these days.
Yeah, right. Hey, everybody. How's everybody?
SVP, welcome.
Goodness.
Great.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
So happy to be here. So thrilled. Oh my God. And it's always so nice to talk to the two of you, especially since Carol, we're like matching and stuff.
I know. We didn't even plan this.
Is that how you say it? Yeah.
We should switch and put Jim in the middle. So
Well, I like Steven's theory. I'm actually wearing matching as well, but as you can see, I'm in black and white tonight. So.
Oh yes, clearly that's it.
You can't tell, yeah.
Yeah. High contrast, yeah.
But Steven, we mentioned this is a special presentation spotlighting SVP's Little Black Book of Terrors, and there's a story behind the book, a cause for the book. Why don't you tell us all about what your goals are for the book, what you're hoping to accomplish with it as the editor?
Well, as the editor, publisher, and a couple other things, and I also have a story in this bad boy. Basically, I am lending a little helping hand to an organization, SAVE. That's Suicide Awareness Voices of Education. And it's kind of interesting because it's something that I'm now starting to accept my role as like somebody that's really kind of like trying to push this as a cause. Mainly, and I mentioned this in the foreword a little bit. During the course of one of the shows I was working on, I was having a real bad day. And I experienced within that day some thoughts of, to put it frankly, of offing myself. It passed. I was interrupted before I could actually really go down that road. And then I kind of put the whole incident aside, and I didn't really think about it for years and years until actually my fraternity that Carol mentioned from the bio, Gamma Xi Phi, they, in the sense and in the heartfelt sort of recognition of the fact that sometimes artists in general, we find ourselves going down these roads that make life a little extra heavy. And especially, especially those of us that are sort of struggling with our craft and struggling with any number of things. It could be survivor's guilt. It could just be like sense of, oh, I'm never going to get this right. Oh, I'm never going to get the recognition. I'm never, no one understands me. It's like you get caught up in all of that, and who knows where you end up. And then when I was, doing a couple of events for Gamma Xi Phi, then I remembered myself standing in front of a high window and having these bad thoughts. And then that's when I was like, I'm probably not the only person to have gone down this road. Maybe I should start doing something a little more proactively in order to, I already started kind of doing stuff with Gamma Xi Phi, but, it then occurred to me, and Carol, you're actually one of the inspirations because you put together a great anthology a while back. you know, it was like, because after the whole Roe v. Wade thing and Supreme Court and everything, you know, you and a bunch of very talented people got together and put together an anthology.
Yes, A Woman
And
Unbecoming. Yeah.
yes. And
Thank you.
so, oh yeah, because I'm in,
And you're in it.
I'm in
Yes.
Woman Unbecoming.
A number of our folks tonight happen to
Yes.
have a story available on a short basis. Yeah.
Exactly. So with all of that kind of inspiring me, and it took me a while to kind of like find my way. And originally I was doing other things, and then I finally said, you know what, I'm going to take this page out of Carol's book basically, and you know, and I'm going to do that for this. And I contacted a few organizations, and then when the people at SAVE got back to me, it was like, okay, you know, and it was funny because they were kind of like, well, what do you want us to do? And I'm like, well, nothing really. Just like after I sell a few hundred books, you know, take the money. Like, that's really all I want you to do. And they were like, oh, okay, that's easy. So we all kind of like collaborated, got together. We came up with a crazy cover, thanks to a few artistically inclined friends of mine. And then we had 14 of our best and brightest, just for the sake of me emailing them. They donated stories, and which was great because I didn't, you know, like I wasn't asking SAVE for any money, and I didn't really have a whole lot of cash laying around on hand. So, you know, and everybody was just really, really, really proactive. And once they understood, and then, you know, I want to say that a few people got back to me and they had mentioned that suicide had somehow touched them one way or the other. And, you know, it all just kind of came together, and now here we are.
Well, I think we have a cover that we can share.
Yes.
Which is right here. And I also want to correct. Cool. I think I was calling the book SVP's Little Black Book of Terrors. It is just terror.
It's just terror.
Anthology
that could have something to do with me typing it wrong. Sorry.
Yes. But it has.
So, Steven, could you say the full title, please, for us?
Yes, it is SVP's Little Black Book of Terror, an anthology benefiting SAVE, Suicide Awareness, Voices of Education.
Cool.
Right.
And we just put a link in the chat for those folks who can see that awesome. About SAVE. I took a look at their site online, and man, they are one of the first groups that started doing things that will support people and help listen. And, you know, it seems like a very powerful organization. So that was a great choice. It really was.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you had that conversation that sort of shed some light on, I guess, sort of the aspect of the artistic personality, the creative personality with relation to this issue. And I know, just to diverge briefly, the Horror Writers Association, which our chapter is part of that international group, has in the last few years launched a mental health awareness initiative that does a lot of things to create awareness too. And one of the not inspirations, but one of the motivating factors for that was about, well, I don't remember exactly. It was several years ago. There were a series of suicides in the writing community over the course of about 18 months. And, you know, we just started talking, what can we do just to put some more light on this and maybe just make people feel more comfortable talking about it, or, you know, seeking help if they need help. And it's just such an important part of the whole conversation to create a place where people feel like they can admit that they're having negative feelings and maybe take some action to get help. So this is fantastic. I think in an organization like SAVE, I don't know the statistics. I have to admit, I didn't have a chance to dig into it, but I'm sure that they help many people every year.
And I just want to share for a minute as well. Many folks know that I took both of my parents through Alzheimer's, and it was a long and very difficult process. And I was doing a lot of it by myself. And there were days where I was not sure which one should go first, me or my dad. So I think having the support of somebody who can listen and understand what you're going through, it really makes a huge difference. It really does. Yeah. Or somebody who comes and knocks at the door when you're looking out the window. So yeah, it saves you from things. Yeah.
No doubt.
Cool. But you put together a fabulous anthology.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I owe it to everybody who answered the call, you know. I mean, I'll run down the list real quick. So we've got Mark,
Yeah.
who's with us tonight, Rashid Darden, who's from Gamma Xi Phi, actually, Patrick Freevold, our old pal, Teel James Glenn, Kirk Johnson.
Here tonight.
We have Antonasia Jones, this young lady who, you know, contributed a great poem that I thought. Nashing T. Casa, Nicole Givens, Kurtz, Gordon Linzer, Robert Masterson, F.R. Michaels, Denise Tapscott, Tanya Ransom, and some guy named Steven Van Patten. So yeah, it's a great lineup. I'm just thrilled and really just kind of humbled a little bit that, you know, everybody's just like, sure, Steve, let's do this. And you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have to shout out my co-editor, Candace Nola, who really like got us on a nice, you know, discipline train.
Yes. She's awesome.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. But that is an outstanding list of contributors. That's really I'm sure I have not had a chance to read the book yet. Yeah. So I think Carol has been digging into it.
I keep picking it up, reading one, and then I have to put it down and pick it up again later. So yeah.
I've been in HWA, Bram Stoker Award voting, Horror University.
You've been a little busy, Jim? Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit.
My reading time has been reduced at the start of the year, and I do look forward to some of these things clearing out so I can dig into this book and a few others I've piled up.
We're going to kidnap Jim and put him out on an island for like 3 days with a battery supply for his book light. Yeah, it'll be great. You'll love it.
Nice.
So, but this is great. And we have several of those contributors here tonight. Shall we move on to our first reading?
Yes.
I think that would be pretty nifty. Yeah. So, out of all of our authors who are here tonight, we had a hard time trying to figure out who to do in what order. So we just randomly picked some. So what I'd like to do is introduce our first reader, who was born in 1971 Trinidad. Kirk A. Johnson began writing fantasy adventure stories in 2005. In 2014, he sold his first short story to MVmedia LLC for its first anthology, Griots, a Sword and Soul Anthology. In 2020, he started his own self-publishing company called Far Afield Press. In 2021, he joined Steven Van Patten and Marc L Abbott on a collaborative effort, submitting 2 tales to Hell at Brooklyn T, a sequel to the award-winning Hell at the Way Station. And this allowed him to delve further into the weird horror genre. In 2022, he published his first collection of Sword and Sorcery, Sword and Soul tales, the Obanaax and Tales of Other Heroes and Horrors, available in all digital formats and paperback. This year, he has stories published in The Book of Blades, Volume 2, and New Edge Sword and Sorcery Magazine, Issue 1. More about Kirk Johnson at farafieldpress.com. And Kirk, I know you will fix any things that I said I pronounced incorrectly. Please join us, Kirk Johnson.
I'll just start off right now. It'll be an excerpt from the book, from Steven Van Patten's book, Little Black Book of Terror, title, Needs, Wants, and Dead Things. Indeed, he thought of the arts as salvation, redemption. Even before the plague, he was something he was always in awe of. The mystery and magic filling him with the wonder of possibilities. He would sit for hours in the village square, watching the bush witches and glamour boys. The bush witches would mystify the crowds with glittering clouds of blue, yellow, and green ether dancing overhead, mesmerizing the people, or causing them to laugh at their tricks. While the glamour boys used ancient glamours to command hyenas to walk on 2 legs or dance to the beat of drums and the melody of Nguni strings. They even made the god gorillas, the great apes of the northern jungles, serve bowls of sorghum wine and oolong tea from the far south. These were what filled his dreaming nights and waking days. His parents forbade magic arts. It took him away from the duties of the only child, away from the embrace of family, commitment, and responsibility. "Indeed," they would plead. "What would you want to leave us so? A glamour boy? What fulfillment would such filthy life offer? Don't you love us anymore? Your mother would die if you left. You know your father doesn't have enough strength for farming anymore. Without you, we would starve." And on they'd go. That was until the plague. He remembered it as well as any other day during the dry season. The sun beamed bright overhead, revealing a smaller moon, Kai, slowly creeping out of Koi, its larger sister's moon's shadow. It was morning when Zaftan merchant dhows faded in over the horizon from Jaga on their way north, stopping at Arlex's port, not far from his village. Some people mentioned the sickly look of the few tradesmen and porters. Their gaunt frames and ashy brown complexions caused some to bring the sick men home to rest and treated with homegrown brews and remedies like friends and acquaintances do for people that they traded with on a regular basis. Meanwhile, the calls for caution fell on deaf ears. The chief was too busy calculating the future wealth from tariffs. Everyone shrugged. They had his understanding of him as a lesser quality than his father and grandfather before him. While many in Arlex and the surrounding country thought themselves giants among men by favor of the All-Wonder's blessings, they were too great to fall to foreign ills. A Jaga tradesman came and stayed with the family close to Ndibi's father in the village. Whatever he spread, first to the adults and then to the children. Many more suffered from the mysteries of the Southern Ocean as it sent young and old into the arms of the All-Wonder, expanding the village burial grounds beyond its designated borders. And when his parents fell sick with the horror from the coast, Ndibi tore at his clothes and pounded the ground. His tears washed over his cold limbs as he tried with all his strength he had to squeeze them back to life. He even broke his favorite cousin's jaw when they tried to prepare the bodies for burial mounds. It took his uncle, a neighbor, and a hoe to the back of the head to make him give up the bodies. Through the night, he bawled from his family's compound, with his family's lone goat bleeding by his side. And the next day, refused to join the survivors as they buried their beloved dead, deciding to hide himself within the empty darkness of his parents' room. His mind raced for ideas to revive them, his grief too great for sense or rationale. He believed there must be a way to resurrect what all understood as a loss shared. But how? Magic. Magic was his salvation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kirk.
My man.
How you doing, guys? What's up?
All right. Doing well. Thank you for the reading.
Thank you for jumping, getting me in here.
And I think we should clue in the audience about your background, your lunar background.
Ladies and gentlemen,
presenting the moon. Kirk has set up his camera to capture
Rod Sterling. Yeah, right. What did Teel say earlier? My Rod Sterling.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present to you a world far afield from what we know. A land, a place, a time, a people that once was, or maybe never was. That's all I got.
with it.
I was like, okay, like we need to start snapping like we at the poetry club.
Right.
You know?
We're at Brooklyn Moon, right?
Exactly. Oh my god.
But it's literally I have a thing for little glowing figurines and moons and stuff. So it's a replica. It's literally the replica of a moon that glows. This is the LED light.
Very cool. So tell us a bit. So this story had more of a had a little bit of a fantasy feel to it, in addition to
Yes.
sort of the dark themes. And you write Sword and Sorcery, Sword and Soul, as well as horror.
Mm.
How do you see those genres sort of interacting?
I always found it interesting that when fantasy writers, genre writers, we do secondary worlds. So we create a world, right? People go so far as to sometimes create a language or use influences from real life, from real world and real cultures to pepper and flavor their secondary world, their creation. And I'm always on like I thought to like it's an entire world. Everything happens in a world: horror, romance, adventure, comedy. All these things take place in a world. So I kind of like, and I'm such a big fan of weird horror and fantasy and stuff. So I was like, if I'm gonna create a secondary world, I can actually have as many genres as I want in this one world, in this one place. So I have like a couple of stories that you have action adventure, and then you have these weird horrors in the vein of Clark Ashton Smith, who'd write these interesting weird horror tales set in imaginary worlds, and I always found that so gripping and fascinating and enticing. I wanted to be a part of that kind of school of writing.
That's cool. So you kind of start with the world, and then you can dip into it for different types of stories, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
Exactly. I mean, once you have, I mean, it's you have a story, an idea, a theme that you want to play with, and you took all this time out to create an actual world, a culture, and peoples, and I took days, man, to make a map. I actually did a map. If I'm gonna do a map, man, I'm gonna have all types of genre stories. I'm gonna have a love story up in there. I'm gonna have all types of stuff in there. So yeah, so that's my thought anyway.
Yeah, back in my heyday of reading fantasy, if a book didn't have a map, I was less likely to pick it up and read it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I always found it kind of hard, some fantasy stories that if they don't have like if they don't really like flavor or have descriptions or little bits of the world within the story, I have a hard time grasping, getting my feet on the ground for that story. You know what I mean? Like, what are they wearing? What do they look like? How do they talk? What are their belief systems? Stuff like that. And I rather those kind of stories anywhere I know what's going on.
Well, Kirk, I think I already know the answer to this question more or less, but as a little kid growing up, you, I'm sure, had a number of influences. Talk on that.
Man, all right. My dad being the big one. So my dad was the jock who's also a nerd. He grew up, in Trinidad. He played soccer. He managed a soccer team for a league. He was a police officer, and then he'd come to America and he worked a blue collar job, Con Edison. But then he'd have me sit down with him and we'd watch all these different genre TV shows like westerns. He introduced me to Ray Harryhausen. So we sitting there watching, The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms and A Million Miles from Venus. He got me watching Jason and the Argonauts and Hercules, the old Sword and Sandal shows and movies and stuff like that. So, he was a big influence. But from there, I was the one kid where everybody was buying X-Men comics and Batman and Superman, and I'm running around getting Conan the Barbarian and the DC fantasy lineup that they had, like Arak, the Son of Thunder, which is like a Native American warrior in early Dark Ages, medieval France and Europe, hanging out with the Vikings and stuff like that. So that was me, growing up. But yeah, those influences, and then you had the other two, the two giants of cosmic horror, and the giant of Sword and Sorcery, Robert E. Howard and H.P. Lovecraft. Those guys, like, as problematic as he was, he had these stories that really spoke to me about this idea of otherworldly things, and knowing that you don't know. And have these stories where cats who thought they knew everything find out that they don't know shit.
Right.
And I always and I loved that revelation of, this isn't real, this isn't true. It was, I'm still that guy now, on Instagram, finding out that there's a theory now that the Big Bang was not the beginning of a universe, it was the end of a universe.
Mm.
And that's interesting to me. That's fascinating. So, but yeah, those are the influences I had when I was younger. So
That's cool. I remember the Arak comic. I think that was ahead of its time. That comic,
Yeah.
it was really something unique, and
absolutely.
I think you probably would have found a more receptive audience today, where people are sort of the genre mashing and the mixing up of historical settings and things like that. But yeah, it was a wild comic.
It was. I agreed. I mean, it had it was Arak. He had a companion. One was a woman knight. I can't remember her name, but she was like the honor guard. She was on the honor guard, and I want to say she was one of the greatest warriors next to Charlemagne. Because Charlemagne, and that also played in this other idea that I love of historical fantasy, where you have these historical moments in history, and you can add fantasy elements to it. That's a great concept. I love that. So yeah,
cool.
Genre mashing.
So how did you wind up contributing to the Little Black Book of Terror? Did Steven just reach out to you and ask for a story?
Man, Steven is.
Did Steven just tell you when I contribute a story?
Right,
Kirk, you're giving me a story.
So Steven Van Patten. Steven Van Patten and Marc Abbott are the brothers I didn't know I needed. So when them cats call, I'm gearing up. I'm a D&D up, getting a horse, get my weapons. What you need, bro? Get a van with tinted windows and some duct tape. What you need, bro? whatever Steven needs, I'm there. So it wasn't even like a thought really of I can't. That didn't even cross my mind. It was like, hey, I need. So I said, yeah, I got you, man. I mean, because I know and I trust whatever Steven needs, it's for a good cause. You know what I mean? And it's real, and it's and hearing what you went through, I also had suffered through the chaos of suicidal thoughts and recovery, and so yeah, this is it wasn't even a question. This wasn't even a question.
And I certainly appreciate that. And Kirk and I have been rocking together for a while now, along with Marc and now Denise with the podcast and the other collaborative efforts, literary wise. And we'll talk a little bit more about all of that when Marc has to ring the bell, so to speak.
Our shenanigans.
Yes.
See, and the thing is, we ran into each other late, like when we were adults. If we was kids, like teenagers and in our 20s and stuff like that.
Oh my God, we would either be in federal prison,
we'd be on the run.
Or, yeah, right, exactly.
I can't help it. I get an image in my head of us like doing chores in the woods because we can't go back to civilization. Like I'm trying to figure out how to chop wood properly.
It's your turn to go fishing, like that kind of stuff.
Right.
Oh my God.
Why is this wood oblong? Would you use the dull end of the axe? What did you? So yeah, that stuff.
Awesome. Well, Kirk, thank you so much for the reading, and we're going to have you back at the end when we get everybody back on to talk about other stuff that you're doing and what's coming up next and things like that. And I think we're going to go and bring on our next reader. So, Kirk, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
All right. Our next reader tonight is Denise N. Tapscott. Denise was born and raised in California. She left her heart in San Francisco, but somehow managed to leave her soul in New Orleans. When she's not creating and cultivating her characters, she enjoys dining on spicy tuna rolls, sharing a bottle of red wine with friends, and watching the latest monster flick. As an actress, playing a sassy vampire is one of her most favorite roles. She can be seen as Tasha on the YouTube web series The Vamps Next Door. As a member of the HWA, one of her greatest joys was publishing her first novel, Gypsy Kisses and Voodoo Wishes, as well as the short story, The Price of Salvation. She's currently working on a collection of short stories called The Friends and Foes of Zenobia and a sequel novel, Enlightening of the Damned. And you can find Denise online at DeniseTapscott.com. All right. Welcome, Denise.
Hello, everyone. Today I'm reading from my short story, The Price of Salvation, which is in SVP'S Little Black Book of Terror. This is a short story about an LA socialite named Rhoda Jarrell, and she's having a session with voodoo high priestess grandmother Zenobia. As you saw when I first came in, I'm not well. I haven't been able to eat or drink anything in a while. A psychic back in Los Angeles sent me. Ah, yes, Oceana. She's sweet. She is, but eccentric and with the crazy hair and the nails, don't you think? Anyway, I did my research. You are a bona fide voodoo high priestess, highly recommended by her and a few others. She nodded as if I were chatting about the weather. She seemed too casual, and I needed her to know that I meant business. Before we continue, Zenobia, I'm laying down a few ground rules. First, I ask most of the questions, not you. Second, I expect you to keep my dealings private. If I choose to let people know I was here, it's because I decide, not you. If all goes well, I could make it possible for you to have a line of people waiting outside your door. Third, if you shake a rattle at me and then make a snake burst through an egg, I will walk right out that door and demand all of my money back. I refuse to pay for parlor tricks. For what it's worth, I like the candles. They're a nice little touch. The voodoo woman smiled to herself and continued to shuffle the cards. All three candles close to me flickered. The purple one was undisturbed. Settle down, she said. Excuse me? Is there anything else, Mrs. Jarrell? She asked as she studied my face. No, I guess that's about it, lazy. I'm not sure why, but it was hard to look directly at her. How about we start with a general reading from the tarot cards? No, do a 7-card spread. I want details. Sure thing. She set the deck before me. I noticed it was cooler in the room than before. I didn't mind it too much, but if it continued, I'd ask for a window to be cracked open or the AC to be turned down. Shuffle the cards for as long as you like. Clear your thoughts, and when you're ready, create 3 smaller separate stacks. The cards were soft. As I shuffled, I swore I smelled roses. I looked closely at the back of one card to examine the details. It was just paper with little black lines and drawings of red roses. It was a weird trick, but I liked it. The obvious question I wanted to ask was, why is this happening to me? It was always so hard to clear your mind when someone told you to do it. I took stupid yoga classes. At the end, you lie around and focus on breathing. Sink into the earth, the vegan tree-hugging yoga said. I only went because they were the latest craze around town. Clear my mind? Yeah, right. I needed to get on with this. I growled and made 3 small stacks. Lady Z, as I decided to call her, collected the cards, then methodically placed a total of 7 cards before me, face up. Each card was revealed. She studied them and nodded her head. The feisty black candle, the one for negative energies and healing, sputtered and extinguished by itself. Are you going to relight that one? No, that's not how it works. I see. All right then, Lady Z, go for it. The first card is a Princess of Swords. Some call it the Page of Swords. This card is reversed. It represents a woman in your life or a feminine energy. She is jealous and represents a difficult lesson you need to learn. The folding chair I was sitting in wasn't as comfortable as when I first sat down. The second card is a Wheel of Fortune. It represents the universe as it spins its wheels over people's lives. If you pass the test placed before you by God, good things will come to you. So far, I was not enjoying this reading. Lady Z continued to go over the cards. There was reversed Hangman, Death, the Tower, the Page of Cups reversed. The last card was reversed to Empress. The cards all looked and sound miserable. She rambled on and on about lessons to be learned, transformation, blah, blah, blah. The reverse Empress represented a blockage of feminine energy, the loss of a loved one, or something about vanity. None of this was new. When Oceana did my reading, she insisted that the reverse Empress card represented my mother. My mother was dead to me, literally and figuratively. Before she died, she begged for me to come home, back to the trailer park, and help out with the family. Going back there would never be an option for me. It was her fault that she and the Catholic Church didn't believe in birth control. It was her fault that half of her 13 kids came out retarded. She told me once that she had a chance to leave my father. She stayed for my sake. For my sake? I didn't ask her to make that sacrifice for me. She was too stupid to get government assistance. She always said that the family had too much honor. Welfare was for colored folk. It was her fault that they were poor white trash and stayed white trash. I was lucky to escape when I did. I realized that I was lost in thought while Zenobia went on with my reading. Z, where'd you get that turban? Is it a scarf? I simply must have one like it. It was rude to interrupt someone, but I didn't care. I pretended that I was bored, but actually, I was scared shitless. I didn't like where this reading was going. She stopped and shook her head. I've had this thing for so long, honestly, I don't remember. I noticed it's the same color as your front door and the candle on your left. That's a hard color to get if it's the real deal. Not that you would have real Tyrian purple paint or dye. The dye comes from snails. It goes back to Mrs. Jarrell. Let me stop you. I put on my best poker face for whatever it was she was going to say. If it was about my mother, I was running out the door. The overall picture is that you have a communication problem. I have a communication problem? I thought you'd go a different way. I'm a great communicator. Have you read any of my magazine articles? They're everywhere. I have thousands of fans and followers on social media. Did you see my wedding announcement in the New York Times? It's impossible to get a spot, but we did. Surely this woman has heard of me, even if I haven't heard of her. People loved me. The problem is that you talk too much, and most of it is deceptive. You manipulate people and their words. Are you calling me a liar? Clearly, she's going on my not list of New Orleans. The voodoo woman mumbled something and collected the tarot cards. The royal blue candle, the one for wisdom and truth, did the same flicker trick as the black one. It sparked a few times and kept shining. Why are you here, really? She asked me point blank. I know that this was the exact same spread you've received from Oceana and a handful of other spiritual people. If you don't want the truth, then say so. We can sit and be social. You have some time left in your session. A cold chill ran down my spine. There were no open windows. There was no fan. Yet a cold breeze passed right by me. How does she know that it's the exact same spread? The information was supposed to be private. The pictures of the cards from the other readings looked different. But she was right. I knew it was the exact same spread. Again, I couldn't escape it. Girlfriend, I'll be honest. I'm here because someone cursed me. I need to know who did it and why. Why didn't you say so instead of wasting my time? That's easy. Why did I test this woman? If she had the answer I needed, maybe I could be rid of the curse and get back to being me. Maybe I could help her get more business or whatever it is that she wanted. She's back on my to-do list. Rhoda Jarrell, I am the one who cursed you. And that's a snippet from The Price of Salvation.
Ooh, be careful what you ask for. That's very cool.
I gotta tell you that I mean, I love all the stories that made it into SVP's Little Black Book of Terror, but that's one of my favorites. I love that story. It's
Thank you.
so diabolical.
Mm-hmm. And it sneaks up on you. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I do need to ask: do you regularly practice tarot, or did you study it for this story, or what is your background with this?
I actually studied it for my character, Grandma Zenobia. I don't study it personally, but I reached out to a couple different tarot readers that I met online and in person, and I actually became pretty good friends with a few of them. They're really cool people. Yeah, I learned a lot. Actually, I was surprised.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome.
It's fun.
Do you own a set?
I do own a set.
You do own a set.
Yeah,
okay.
The writer one. Yeah, the traditional one.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've even heard of people who give classes or examples or help you through using tarot to help develop your story or to get through writer's block.
Yes,
I think it's fascinating.
I took a one-on-one class with Evie Knight, who definitely knows how to tarot.
Yes.
She's so wonderful.
She's been on the show and she's just fabulous. Yeah,
she is. She really is. Yeah. I also talked to a tarot reader. Her name is Prophetic Lex. I talked to her a lot. She actually has her own website. She's not a writer, but she's a tarot reader, and she's a spiritual person. She's awesome. She's very cool. She helped a lot too. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was fun researching all these characters and stuff.
Yeah. Well, if I could pull a question from our audience here, Nicholas, one of our regular attendees, says, Denise, you're part of a big cast with some of the cool kids on this episode of GT called Beef, Wine, and Shenanigans. How does being on a big cast help you out creatively?
Oh, my stars. I really wish that I would have met these guys much sooner. They're like my kindred souls. They are my family. We talk about so many things and bounce ideas off each other, and when I have questions about my characters or plots, they come out with these great ideas left and right, which just feed my soul, and just the juices get flowing, and the muses, if they were quiet, then they just wake right back up. Just my Beef, Wine, Shenanigans guys. Yeah, definitely. Holy moly. Especially Steven, when I have like vampire questions, I know what I believe, but I bounce some ideas off of him, and then suddenly it's like these light bulbs just brighten up the universe. Yeah.
Oh, shucks, ma'am.
It's all true. It's all true.
And then after he chats with you about it, you have to say thanks a lot for the info. Yes.
Thanks a lot. Yes.
Hey-o.
Thanks.
Yeah, I had to. I couldn't help myself. Yeah. No, that's very cool. That's very cool. Yeah. So, but it's cool that you do the video show as well with this stuff. So you're doing lots of different creative things, which I think is way cool.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, I love playing Tasha, the vampire on The Vamps Next Door. She's just so sassy and wacky, and she starts out as a human, and eventually she gets bit, and then suddenly she has like all these powers she has to try to figure out and stuff. It's a lot of fun. She's goofy.
That happens. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
And having seen every episode, I can honestly tell you, like, she's really like grown into this character.
Yeah.
It's like she owns it. Like she very much owns it.
Oh yeah, I love playing Tasha. I'm kind of considering making a spin-off, possibly, maybe.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of cool. But we have a bonus question as well. How big is your hair flower accessory collection?
Oh,
Because
my
many of us would like to know this answer.
stars. Yes, I have. Just off the top of my head, I think I have at least 30 different flowers. At least different colors, shapes, sizes. It depends on the weather. It depends on my hairstyle. It depends on where I am. When I work at the Muggle job, I generally have maybe 5 that I rotate around because I work in
The corporate
big warehouse. Yes, my day job, I work for an airline in their cargo and freight department, and it's a wonderful job. I love it. Of all the jobs, it's awesome. But it's really dusty and it's cold, and in the summer it's really hot, but it's always dusty, so you can't bring out like your very best flowers. So I usually save those for the podcast, or if you meet me in person, you'll see a lot more too. And I know I learned how to make some, so I will probably be going to Michael's to get more flowers, to have more flowers. If I don't have a flower in my hair, something's probably wrong.
That's excellent. I want you guys to do an episode of Be Fun and Shenanigans where everybody has a flower. Okay,
that would be
registering
so cool.
that as a request, please. SVP's like,
I can make that happen.
I mean, there might be some gluing involved.
A staple gun works great. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
If your hair is short,
that's a
staple
good
gun.
idea.
Yeah.
Just some bobby pin magic. We can figure it out.
Just a little trip to urgent care right after the show, right? Oh my god.
A little double side tape for Kirk on the bald head. Yeah.
Well, we are being really silly, but I do have one more question for you. You know, and there's a lot of really powerful stories in this book. And how do you feel about the role of fiction in addressing some of these things? What does it do for you to see some of these things through a story as opposed to in real life? I
think it helps people talk about their problems more. That when they see it in fiction, they can relate to it without it staring at them in the face. My story in particular, without giving any spoilers, I was trying to show things from the perspective of the bully, and I wanted my readers to know that when people are not nice to you, it's okay, and that they will have their just desserts as well. That it's okay to not feel good, but to know that there are better things, that you can get through this dark cloud, that there is definitely more good stuff on the other side. And to see it through fiction, for me, it also helps like deal with your own problems and help you slay your own dragons. Yeah. That's what I think.
That's interesting. Start facing it in a story and then carry it to your real life. Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's very cool. Okay.
That's very profound, Denise.
Thank you.
Yeah, see, she's not just a pretty flower.
That's right.
We already knew that.
She wouldn't be with me if she didn't have a brain.
This is very true.
No,
very
Denise is
true.
awesome.
You're gonna lead your toes with these guys.
And
cool.
vice versa.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's fair. Teel Glenn just said she's a flower with thorns.
Hey,
that's our secret.
Yeah. All right. I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing part of your story.
Thanks
I think
for
people are going to want to see
having
the end
me.
of that in the book. Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
I hope so. Thank you.
And what I'm going to do now is go ahead and introduce, speaking of, Teel James Glenn. Teel James Glenn has killed hundreds and been killed more times on stage and screen as he's traveled the world for 40 plus years as a stuntman, swordmaster, storyteller, bodyguard, actor, and haunted house barker. He's published dozens of novels, and his poetry and stories have been printed in over 200 magazines, including Weird Tales, Mystery, Mad, Mystery Weekly, Blazing Adventures, and Sherlock Holmes Mystery. His novel, A Cowboy on Carpathia, A Bob Howard Adventure, won Best Novel 2021 in the Pulp Factory Award. He's also the winner of the 2012 Pulp Award for Best Author. He was a finalist for the Derringer Short Mystery Award in 2022. And I'm also excited to share his novel, Journey to Stormrest, Chronicles of Altiva, is currently a finalist in the Pulp Factory Award for Best Novel. His website is theurbanswashbuckler.com. Thank you for joining us, Teel.
This is my story, The Angel of Illusion. I'm typing with this pencil held between my teeth because it's the only way I have to leave some record before all of my reason is gone from me and I'm no longer capable of rational communication. I can feel my mind slipping away as I become subjugated by the form that is overwhelming my humanity. The fear is almost gone. However, as the final change comes upon me, only the need to understand is left. I would like to think it all started when I saw my angel of illusion, Marco, for the first time, but it really goes back further than that, to when I was a kid, always different than the other guys, not very big or as strong as the other guys. I nonetheless tried to keep up with them, not because I felt a kinship, but because I didn't want them to realize I was not one of them. I was different inside. I liked men. They only had dirty words for guys like me back then, ugly words that implied you were less than human for wanting love and companionship from someone like yourself. It was something I could not ever let out, yet it was something that occupied my mind all the time. I didn't know how young I was when I knew, but it was my dark secret from the day I knew the differences between the sexes. It was just not something you could talk about in 1946 when I entered high school, and the few books that even mentioned it were religious and condemning in the extreme. I grew through my adolescence loathing myself and by extension anyone like me, so I used the terms and made the sneers with everyone else. It's only as I grew older that I realized so many more were like me, and so many of them hid behind the same mask of derisive hate. But I did not know it then. Perhaps if I had, my fate would have been different. Then the summer after high school, while I decided what I was going to do with the rest of my life, I saw Marco at the tent show. It was one of those little shows that toured the Midwest all through the pre-war years, and now it was in its stride with the return of soldiers and the need for entertainment in that stultified time. I went with a bunch of kids from the school. We drove the 20 miles to Allenville in John's dad's old pickup truck, rumbling along the hay-strewn bed as the unmuffled vehicle coughed and roared the entire way. We oohed and awed when the pretty girl in the tight outfit actually swallowed and spit out fire and put a sword down her throat. There was a dog show with 6 little mutts jumping through hoops and dancing around. That made the girls giggle, but it bored us guys. Then a barker came on stage and introduced the great Marco. "Ladies and gentlemen," the skinny guy in the plaid jacket said, "you are about to witness the most amazing, astounding presentation of prestidigitation the world has ever seen. The next performer has presented performances for the crowned heads of Europe and on the stages of the Far East, where he learned many of the secrets of the ancients." The announcer leaned forward from the small stage at the side of the one ring and seemed to look each one in the audience in the eye, his smooth and reedy voice dropping to a stage whisper. "Now he will show you the mysteries unseen since the pharaohs ruled in Egypt. Ladies and gentlemen, the Dr. Mabuse Traveling Wonder Show presents the great Marco the Magnificent." There was a drum roll and a trumpet blast, and then a puff of smoke in the center of the ring. A small rabbit appeared on a box in the center of the ring, looking confused and a little scared. Everyone laughed nervously and was a little confused. For a moment, nothing else happened. Then with a roar, a creature like none those in the arena had ever seen raced into the room. It had the body of a lion, the head of an eagle, and the stubs of clipped wings on its back. The animal ran straight for the helpless lion, and all the women and some of the children in the house squealed in horror. Just as it leapt for the bunny, it seemed to pause in the air and then vanished in a puff of blue-white smoke to be replaced by the most beautiful man I'd ever seen. I do not use that word lightly. Marco was like a figure from a Renaissance painting of an angel or one of the Greek statues I saw in the museum in the Capitol. Tall and straight, with the physique of an athlete. He moved like liquid silver and had the expressive hands of a great painter or orchestra conductor. He was dressed like Mandrake the magician, except he had no top hat on. But it was his facial features that were riveting and took my breath away. He had high cheekbones, dark, bushy eyebrows that matched his jet black hair, and thin lips when he smiled, which revealed brilliantly white teeth. Most amazing were his golden brown eyes that seemed to glow from within like beacons. I know I flushed, and I hope no one in a darkened tent could see. I know the others were impressed by him, the girls all giggly and just as entranced as I. Here I was in a crowd of people, looking at this amazing man and wishing he would look my way. Somehow I convinced myself that he would when he turned those handsome features to look straight at me and seemed to fix those startling brown eyes on me alone. "I'm sorry about that," he said in a smooth baritone voice. He gave an easy and casual smile as he lifted the rabbit into his arms. "This little fellow gets into more trouble when I'm not around." He hefted the bunny by the flesh of the neck and looked into his eyes. "Now, Bugs, you go back to your top hat and reflect on the error of your ways. I told you 1,000 times not to tease the griffin." He tossed the little animal into the air and made a gesture. Suddenly the beast was gone in a puff of green smoke, and the top hat appeared in its place. He grabbed the hat, put it on his head, took a bow to the thunderous applause. That was the moment I fell in love with him.
Thank you, Teel.
Woo.
Thank you.
So it's always a treat to hear you read, Teel.
Thanks.
But I have to say, I always get a chuckle out of your bio when I hear that first line about how many times you've killed or been killed, and
Well,
all
I
I can
died
think of
18 times in one movie.
Well, I was going to say,
Ross
all I
died-
can think of is
Yeah.
the first and only time I watched Trauma Wars.
That's it. Troma's War. I died 18 times in that. And my buddy Ross was there one day more than me, and he died 22, and I'll never forgive him for it.
But I remember seeing you and thinking, oh, hey, that's Teel. And then, oh, he got killed. And then a few minutes later, or however long, it was like, hey, wait, Teal's back.
Yep. It's like an old movie serial. They just kept changing our clothes, and we'd run back in front of the camera again and get blown up.
Nice.
Right.
Well, you know, I've been in some movies where I was on one side charging, and then we changed clothes, and I was on the other side charging. And when it's cut together, I'm actually charging it myself. So, you know, magic of movies.
Movie magic. Yes, exactly. So we have a question for you. We got a tip that we should ask you about the reaction of your sensitivity reader for this story.
My buddy Mike, who I did Street Fighter the later years with, he was Zangief, but he professionally is known as Drummer Bear in the gay community. But he was Mr. Stonewall of 2019, when I wrote this, I asked him to read it because I wanted to make sure I got it right, because I am a cis white old guy who's never been, by the way, to the Midwest. And he read it, and he teared up, and he looked at me and said, "How do you know this? This is my life." And it goes to my contention that any good writer can, like Quantum Leap, can put himself in a character anywhere, and if he has his history right and his cultural norms right, then he should be able to tell the story from anyone's point of view, good, bad, or indifferent. But that being said, you've got to make sure you got it right and check with the people who really, rode that horse.
Yeah, it takes a lot of observation and a lot of empathy to sort of put yourself in that place and do that. And I think that's an amazing reaction you got.
I went to art school, and I actually had more passes made at me by gay men than I'd ever made at women. So I knew a lot of the culture, and I was very lucky to grow up in New York, where even though I was in Brooklyn and, those guys were there and all that stuff, it's one of the enclaves where difference is celebrated for the most part.
Mhm.
And culturally, you can be something that isn't considered Procter and Gamble normal, and still be considered a human being, not just 3/5 of one. And so I was very lucky with that, and I'm always very conscious of having had that advantage. And so that's what artists are supposed to do is expand and illuminate.
And what I would want to say about this is that, considering what I'm trying to do with this anthology and the whole thing about mental health and everything, this story in particular really kind of hits on the theme of the mission, because it deals with that whole being different, feeling isolated, feeling just alone and out of place. So I if I have not voiced this properly, I really appreciate you including it.
Thank you. I really, the thing is, while I can pass as a normal human, I'm always that guy in the corner of the room. I always feel a little bit outside of any group I've ever been in.
Mhm.
So there's always a sense that I don't know the inner secret. What is the next secret? What is the thing to be part of this group?
Yeah.
And although I got to say, a number of groups that I figured out that too, I got into and went, these groups aren't worth anything. Often the grass green on the other side of the fence kind of deal is true. And
Yes.
one has to work to be completely unique in a world that emphasizes conformity.
Mm.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective, and I wonder to some extent if a lot of writers aren't in that position in different ways, and that writing communities are sort of communities of outsiders. Just because we have to be observant, we have to sort of have a little bit of detachment just to experience things in a way that we can then write about them.
Oh, I absolutely think so. I think that, like, even somebody like Hemingway, who was in the midst of everything, he was really also outside of everything, and he was able to kind of, and speaking of suicide, but he was able to look at his own life. And if you read some of his work, he really dissects his own life, and not necessarily in a pleasant way.
Yeah.
Same thing with Mark Twain, again, who took his own life. There's a sense that I remember seeing a cartoon many years ago, and it was a guy in a bar, and he's sitting there looking drunk, going, "Man, I used to be into self-awareness until I became aware I was an asshole." And I think that a lot of artists, it's one of the reasons they're driven to dark corners, is that they look at themselves. And the ones who can't handle it turn to drugs or booze or womanizing or violence because they don't want to look inside. The number of homophobes who are incredibly latently gay, the number of bigots who are terrified that they'll be treated the way they're treating other people. So you have to pay for consciousness, and you have to be willing to pay for it. And I think most writers really try to pay that toll with their writing.
Yeah.
If they're good, if they're not just, there's craft and there's art. You can turn out a story that you have no emotional connection to, and some of you will creep into it. But if you have an emotional connection to it, a lot of you will creep into it. You're really good with that, SVP. Your stuff is hilarious or terrifying, but there's always some kind of a heart in there, some kind of a kernel of introspection that makes it solid stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think in particular, Stephen, of your story, and even in The Grave, Blind Spot, which I know everybody who's commented on it to me has really commented on how moving it is, and how much emotion it gets across.
Yeah,
it's a great example.
Thank you. Yeah. And it's funny because when I do those stories, it's not like I'm like there are these moments of pause, you know, where you get like choked up and stuff, and it's, you know, it's as tough as it is to read. And I think somebody said something about that about Swanee, my story for Under Twin Suns, is like it's a great story, but the oppression that the characters experience make it a really hard read. And I was kind of like, that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you can soften the image in the mirror, but sometimes it has to be crystal clear to make the point.
Yes.
You know, and that's always the balance. How uncomfortable do I want to make you? Am I going to drive you away in the first paragraph? Or am I going to lure you in so that by the end you're committed to feeling what I want you to feel?
Exactly.
You know, that's
no, and I definitely try to do the carrot and then the stick.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Get them to the point where they're not going to put it down, and then dial up the intensity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Teel, I had just one more question for you. I'm just curious because I know that you have written Robert E. Howard as a fictional character.
Yeah.
And Howard is another writer who took his own life. I haven't read that much of it yet. Have you tackled any of that in your writing about Howard?
Yeah. The opening chapter of A Cowboy in Carpathia is the moment he's sitting in the car with his friend's borrowed gun outside the hospital where his mother is dying, and what might have gone through his head. But in my world, at the very end, he chooses not to pull the trigger. And that's where the stories I've written with him move from. But up until that last moment, it's, as far as I could research, the moment, the space where his head was at, and even the gun that he borrowed from a buddy because his grandfather's gun didn't work. Because, I mean, he was, again, the outsider. He was making more money than anybody else in his little dirt town, but he was the weirdo. He didn't have a real job. And he wrote poetry. What the hell's that? And he had to prove himself by doing bare knuckle fights in ice houses to kind of prove his manhood. And he was incredibly isolated. Jesus, just three of my favorite writers, and they killed themselves. Damn, wait a minute. Maybe I better stop this stuff and start painting. Oh no, then that's Van Gogh.
Well,
but it was the starting point for my whole take on his world. Is that what happens when you go to the edge? And his final conclusion in my story is that since he always believed that primitive man would triumph over civilization, his final conclusion in that section of the story is, well, damn it, primitive man fought for every breath. He would never take his own life. And that's where he goes, that civilization has made us weak enough to take our lives. Animals do not commit suicide.
Yeah, that's a great observation and interesting insight. Yeah. Well, Teel, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. We'll have you back on
for asking me in.
Oh, please.
Cool.
The honor's mine.
All right. We'll see you in a bit. Our next reader is Marc L Abbott. Marc is a Brooklyn native whose work includes The Hookie Party and Etienne and the Stardust Express. He's the co-author of Hell at Brooklyn T and Hell at the Way Station, the two-time African-American Literary Award-winning horror anthology. His short stories are featured in Hell's Heart, Hell's Mall, Even in the Grave, and the Bram Stoker-nominated horror anthologies Empire State of Fright and Under Twin Suns, Alternate Histories of the Yellow Sign. Marc is also a Moth Story Slam and Grand Slam Storyteller winner and an award-winning actor. Find out more about him at whoismarclabbott.com. All right. Welcome, Marc.
Hi. I'll be reading an excerpt from The Secret of Hanlon, which was first introduced in the Hell at the Way Station anthology and kind of made its way with its legs over into SVP's Little Black Book of Terror. To set the scene for this, a young man named Basil is going home late, and he has encountered a town where it has been overtaken by some very strange creatures. The generator came on, causing the string of lights to illuminate. The roots attached to the body of the creature were transparent, and Basil could see thick red fluid being transferred through it. To the right, he saw another larger yam, the one that had been talking to him, staring. It had inserted a vine into the elderly man's mouth like a fishhook. Thicker red fluid flowed through it. Basil felt sick as the elderly man shuddered, and the yam kept draining the fluid until the smaller one to the left of it made a cooing sound, and the eyes on it opened wide. Then the fluid stopped flowing, and the root slid out of the man's mouth. The root around Basil's throat slipped away along with the thorns. Basil rubbed his neck and bent over and threw up. "What the hell are you?" he said as he wiped his mouth. Basil slowly raised his head as the root from the yam pointed to the basket that had fallen over. He saw the yams watching him. They used their roots to stand on end, making their bodies appear as though they were suspended in midair. And one by one, they used their roots to walk and surround him. Basil screamed for the attendant. "He cannot help you anymore than he already has. It is unfortunate that you had to see us like this. We had hoped to retrieve our brother unnoticed," it said. Basil put his hands up. "Your secret's safe with me. I won't tell anyone what I've seen." "Of course you will. You'll tell people. It is in your nature to do so. People will come when you tell them, and they will want to see us." It took its roots from around the elderly man, and in a zombie-like state, he walked away. And before Basil stood a large yam, with its roots the size of small tree trunks. It stepped closer to him. "We have lived here in peace for longer than I care to remember. This county belongs to us, which means its inhabitants here belong to us. If you can promise not to tell anyone, continue on and keep passing through, and do not send people here," it said, "I will allow you to leave." "I can do that," Basil said. It hesitated, then blinked. "Good. Now, you don't have much time. Leave this place and go to the highway and walk away." "But what are you? Where did you come from? What purpose would it serve you to know what we are? Know that we are willing to let you go and not use you as long as you never set foot here again," it said. "Go now, before you are not allowed to do so." It pointed to the road, and Basil turned to leave when a pickup truck pulled into the station. "You should have left when you had the chance," it said. Another pickup truck pulled into the station, and another behind that. People got out of both the cab and the flatbed and lined up. They had the same glassy-eyed expressions as the elderly man, and from over their shoulders and from behind their backs appeared hundreds of thorns covered in roots, waving like tentacles. The large yam cooed, and they responded. The people marched like zombies toward Basil in a single file line. When they were upon him, the line split, and they walked past Basil. He saw the yams attached to their backs and necks. He heard the sickening sounds of the slurping as the fluids ran through their roots. And the people walked out into the field just beyond the fruit stand, then gathered in a circle. They fell to their knees, and the yams dug their roots into the ground. Then the people's bodies convulsed as they fell flat to the ground, and the yams detached themselves and walked over and joined the others. "It is done," one of them said to the large yam. Then they walked a straight line past Basil back to the gas station and up the road they had drove in on, and Basil observed the lifeless bodies in the field and cringed. "Oh, God," Basil said. "Listen, I didn't see anything. I'm going to go." "That time has passed," it said. You don't have to hurt me," Basil said. He pointed to the bodies. "We can coexist. We are not here to coexist. Our being here has been a mistake for years, and our adaptation to your planet has only delayed us. There are those among us who do not wish to leave, but that is not for them to decide. It has taken us too long to find the source for which would allow us to leave, but we have found that through chemical balance, that too can be controlled," it said. A crash behind him caused Basil to turn. Several of the yams were heading back, were destroying his car. The attendant came out and approached them. "Hey, watch out for the..." And Basil warned them, and the attendant raised his hand to reveal a long, slender crowbar, and he joined the yams in just starting breaking the windows and denting the doors. "There is nowhere for you to go," the yam said. "You might as well let it happen." The yam closed in around Basil, and he scanned for an opening, but he couldn't find one. He felt the thorn penetrate his shoulder, sink deep into his muscle, and the tip of the thorn then split into two, creating a hook, and it sunk deeper and deeper, and Basil screamed in agony, and he reached back and he grabbed the root. He tried to pull it out, but the yam had pulled back and tried to wrestle him to the ground, and Basil fought back, pulling hard on the root until the yam lost its footing, tripped over, and he yanked the thorn from his shoulder and then ran for one of the trucks. The Secret of Handling.
You know that's one of my favorite stories. You know it.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's absolutely great. Good job. Nice reading.
That always gets them.
Mm-hmm.
Secret of Handling, that always gets them, which is why I didn't mind it being in both Hell at the Way Station and in SVP's Little Black Book of Terror, because Marc and I have been working together really for like about a decade now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so here's the thing, like, people are closer to Marc, people are closer to me, but they read our stuff collectively. And I know people come ask him certain questions about me and my mental state, but everybody that's ever read Hell at the Way Station, they are freaked out by that story. Like, just, and they're like, "Yo, I didn't feel like I think I can't eat yams anymore." And it's like, well, yeah, that, we are horror writers.
Yeah. It's an effective story. It's one that has always been conflicting in the house because my wife didn't think it was such a great story when she first read it. She kind of, she was like, it's interesting, but it's not. She never thought of it as one of my best. And I kind of reworked it over time, and when we decided,
as we do,
together, I just think it got stronger. And the thing is that I grew up much like Kirk talked about. My dad and I watched a lot of horror and sci-fi. Here, if you lived in New York, you knew Channel 9, WOR TV, you knew PBS on Saturday night, Chiller Theater on WPIX. So I was always fascinated with the creature feature. I always loved the creature feature. So this was just one of those things where I was looking around the house for something, and
what could be weird, right? Yeah,
exactly. And we had let some potatoes go, and they started to grow those spuds, and then the little kind of vines, and I was like, huh,
Hmm.
okay, let's see what we have with this. And
Yeah.
I thought it just turned into like a really cool
Yeah.
sci-fi story, and I
With
don't do
a
sci-fi
healthy
books.
dose of creep, yeah. And
Oh yeah.
we did get a couple comments supporting SVP's assertion. James Ryan says, "Well, I'm looking for new starch now," and Kathleen Marshall is like, "Nice, never looking at a yam the same way
Same way again.
again."
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
perhaps the best answer is from our co-reader here, Kirk Johnson. Rule of thumb: eat them before they
What
eat
he-
you. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah, this it was interesting because I know that when Steven approached me about doing this, he'd been tooling around with different ideas of exactly what he wanted to do in terms
Yeah.
of the type of charities he wanted to do, what direction he wanted to go in. And when he landed on this, it was interesting. I thought I would have to create something for this particular book. And he was like, no, this is strong in and of itself. And, I like to think the story has a certain level of escapism to it. The idea that we don't know what's out there. Some certain dangers hide in very plain sight. There are things that just want to be completely left alone. And, it's interesting when you write over time, when people read your work and different people find different things in it. That's always fascinating to me. So I was happy to sometimes you think, well, you would take the same story and put it in another book. But, this is one of those rare stories I feel as a writer, I'm very proud of. And I'm glad that it was included in this collection.
Yeah. And I think it's also important that when there's an anthology about a certain topic, all the stories don't have to be specifically about that topic, and they can relate to it. And this is, otherness, and this is, us and them, and it's things we don't understand. And when we don't understand, we get confused. But putting this same story in two different anthologies, it's like holding the mirror up from a different angle. You can look at the same story a different way now in this same book. And I just want to add also, this is a creepy as hell story so far. Y'all you gotta read the end. You gotta get through the rest of this story because it's not necessarily what you expect. So
this was when I think back when I wrote it, this was like a one-nighter thing. This was like, I was up late. Yeah, this wasn't over a couple of days. This was one of those stories that came to me, and it progressively got worse as the story went on, to the point where I was like, okay, I got to get to I actually don't remember if I knew what they were and whether or not they were either from the earth and no one had ever seen them before, or I wanted to make them from someplace else. And the creatures themselves I think the hardest part about this is using the word yam over and over. This is like the editor's nightmare, because when the editor looking at you, I don't even know what other words you could use. You got to
right.
So I had
tuber
to go between yam, I just it was one person early on was like, well, sweet potato and the yam are not the same thing, so you can't say sweet potato. I was like, great, all right. So maybe the next one I'll use yucca or something that it kind of rolls off the tongue there. So.
A murderous box of stovetop stuffing or something like that.
Death by tuber. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, there it is. If the tomatoes can kill you, then hey, why not?
Yeah, it's only fair. No, great reading too. Very, very cool for sharing all this. Man, you put together Teel James Glenn had to say Hellburger helper. Yeah, trust an author, right?
There it is.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. No, it's a nifty anthology, and nifty is rather a silly word for this, but yeah, a bunch of great stories in here, a bunch of great authors. I've been enjoying it immensely.
And it, I
Yeah.
mean, it's and it's a great cause. You know, it is. I mean, a lot of what Steven said earlier. You know, artistically, we it's being artists is a hard thing.
Yeah.
You know, and even like I teach now, and you know, when you talk to teenagers about it, they're often like, you know, oh, well, you must have a lot of confidence, you must like, you know, it must come easy to you. And I'm like, no, it's not. You know, when you're an artist, it's because you beat yourself up about certain things. you you know, it's very rare I run into vain artists. Very
Mm.
rare.
Mm.
You know, even people who appear to be the self-centered ones are the ones that once you get to know them, they're the most vulnerable. And it can be easy, it can be really easy to kind of fall down the rabbit hole with yourself. You know, we talk oftentimes about there's that term about not feeling like you belong, the idea that you're not good enough, you know, and then you hear other authors say, man, I just really, you know, I mean, we're one of the art is the one place where you get critiqued a lot, and you get a lot of rejections, and a lot of rejected. That's it. Thank you, Denise. Imposter syndrome. Um, you get a lot of rejections, and I don't care how long I've been doing this and how many stories I've successfully had published, but you know, you get a rejection letter, it still stings. You know, it still stings, and the worst part is that you don't know why. They never a rejection never goes, oh, you know what? Well, if you'd have fixed this little thing here, or you moved this around, it would have made sense. It's usually that, yeah, it just didn't fit what we were looking for. And it can be easy to just fall into your feelings and get into your own subconscious and go, you know what, I'm not good enough. Maybe that's why they don't want my work. And it's great that I'm happy Steven put this together, because of all the things writers, we have to not only get within the pain within ourselves, but the pain within our characters. And we live in two different worlds. We live in the world that we create and the world that we inhabit.
Up here and up
And
here.
so, you know, our mental state is always racked by something. And for written prose to be the thing to help people who are suffering from imposter syndrome, don't feel like they're good enough, don't feel like they matter. Hopefully these stories, albeit that they are horror stories, but hopefully these stories will inspire people. They will read something and be like, you know what? If they can do it, I can do it too. And maybe at some point we'll be reading some of their work, you know, and seeing them at conventions and being among the masses. So,
And I'll just piggyback off of that just to say, part of Marc and part of our friendship was born from the fact that we were getting rejection letters and doing stuff and whatever. Look, Hell at the Way Station, right? I'm going to tell the very embarrassing story about how that actually came to be. We were at a bar named Way Station, which of course has now fallen by the wayside thanks to COVID. But there we are, and Marc is sort of like the norm of this place. Like they all like him and whatever. Like
Marc.
Yeah, exactly. You know, me, I feel like I didn't quite smell like the rest of the other dogs, so they were kind of like, you know, with me. But like this was Marc's spot, and I think it was around his birthday, which has just passed actually. So happy belated again.
Thank you.
And we were, not to be indelicate, 3 sheets to the wind. Like we were high as giraffe tits. And what ended up happening is Marc all of a sudden had that sort of like, we could buy this bar moment, but it wasn't buying the bar. It was, we should just put it together and apology. Yeah, right? And I was like, yeah, that's what we're going to do. And then I woke up the next morning very dehydrated and was like, wait, what the fuck did I agree to? And you know, but and to our credit, I want to say, Marc and I, sober, went ahead with it, and you know, and it was one of our more successful ventures. We won a bunch of awards. It's moved quite a bit, you know, people dig it. And, you know, of course, there's now like, you know, this big crash in the stock market as far as yams go. But, you know, that's kind of like, I feel like part of our journey has been the, not so much the struggle, but definitely like the, you know, the keeping everybody motivated, keeping everybody like spiritually up so that we can keep creating and moving forward. And you know, Marc is as much a part of my support system as I like to think I am of his.
Like the root structure, should we say?
You know what? Leave it to Carol.
Yeah, well, you left it out on the table, dude.
I did.
And thank you for that. Yeah. No, it's awesome. I think it's very cool that this entire anthology, you know, has grown out of, you know, your creative work, all of you, and your friendship, and including other people. And it's just awesome. I think it's absolutely terrific. But, you know, we have the other folks are still here with us. How about if we bring them back in and we can talk just a little bit more and see what everybody else has coming up? Because, you know, this is going to be a hard act to follow, I swear.
We're back.
So to speak. Yay! Did everybody run out and eat a couple of yams while Marc was eating?
They probably shot a couple of yams.
Whoa!
Stop looking at me!
Yams
The eyes.
like
Before
The eyes.
is to provide some links where people can find SVP's Little Black Book of Terror. I don't think we've put a link up for that. I think we have a couple of links where people can go to find the book.
Yes. Well, right now it is exclusively available at my website, www.laughingblackvampire.com. You do a little clicky and you'll find that, and a host of other things that I've
Looks like
written over the
maybe
years.
this is a pre-order, but I think it's the ebook is on Amazon. Is that correct?
And the ebook is on Amazon. Yes.
Okay. So
Amazon, Kindle, iBook, wherever.
You want ebook? The links are in the chat. Definitely check it out. And all the proceeds go to SAVE and to supporting a very good cause.
yeah.
Yeah, it's quite true.
Definitely.
And it's a great read, you know, even if you can't read it all at once because you're, yeah.
Got some spooky things going on in there,
A
sir.
little bit.
Yeah, that's the mark of a good book. Yeah.
Spooky things in there.
Yeah, it's quite true. So, what are you guys gonna do next, huh? How you gonna top this one? Or alternately, what else do you have coming up in the near future?
We're gonna do a road trip on acid.
Nice.
That's how you got here tonight, Kirk. Come on.
Oh my stars.
That's what we gotta do.
Okay. He's the one that's gonna do the I don't think the rest of us
I
rest
think
of
he's
us
on
are-
yam juice. That's the deal.
There it is.
I gotta get them
It's
yams.
eating the yams. That's it.
Where are the yams? Sorry.
Stock up on brown sugar and butter. You'll be all right.
Well, I know that we are in the midst of doing book 3 for the Hell
Hell at
series.
the.
We don't know what it's Hell something. We haven't come up with the title yet. But Denise Tapscott has joined us.
Yes.
For this,
Yes.
for this
I was
fourth-
kind of hoping that
for
was
this
going to
third
happen.
for this third iteration. So so that's still in the beginning stages. We're still working through that. I have through Mocha Memoirs Press have my novel Sinister Ascension will be coming out later this year. So I'm really excited about that. This is actually my first novel that I did not literally go broke putting together and putting out on my own. So I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, and Mocha Memoirs Press is awesome. She's fantastic.
Yeah. Sure.
That's cool.
Fantastic.
I'm working on my second novel, Enlightening of the Damned. It's a sequel to Gypsy Kisses and Voodoo Wishes. And because so many of my readers really liked Grandmother Zenobia in the first book, I'm actually having a collection of short stories about her called Friends and Foes of Zenobia. And some of these gentlemen will have short stories in my collection as well.
Oh, nice.
Exciting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Denise, am I allowed to mention one of the people that Zenobia is actually going to interact with?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Thank you. Well, some of you might remember a certain zombie singer by the name of Rusty C. Nail. Yes.
Yes.
Well, Rusty will be making an appearance.
Ooh,
Yes.
I can't wait for the video that follows.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like the MVU world crossover.
Yeah, well, you know,
Yes.
we've all been kind of talking about that. Just, you know, just for whatever, just to kind of like expand all of this stuff. Because, you know, I'd say to, you know, piggybacking off something Kirk was talking about earlier, you know, we're all fairly good world builders.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that, you know, every once in a while we get together and we like shuffle up some cards and, you know, and mix and match and see how that turns out. So yeah, I'm looking forward to everybody seeing Rusty. Speaking of
Nail.
Rusty,
It's a really good one.
That's right.
Really good
P.
one.
Nail.
Rusty C. Nail from Coosa County, Alabama.
Played by played by Matthew McConaughey.
Basically.
Well, no,
trust me.
it would be
All right.
Scarlett Johansson. You know that.
Right. Yeah, 11. What would you say, Teel?
It'd be Scarlett Johansson. You know.
Nice. Nice. Hey, Gordon, and yes, I'm so happy to have you as well. Speaking of Rusty will also be appearing in Brookwater's Curse 4, which is nearly done.
Nice.
Nice little twists and turns in there. I figured I created him. I might as well, you know, get as much mileage out of him as possible.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we did shoot, as Teel knows, we did shoot a short vignette thing. There's been some struggles with getting that edited, but I'm hoping to have that done soon as well.
That was a great experience.
That was so much fun.
Cool.
Oh, it was a riot. But once I get that together, then everybody will finally see that. Yeah, and you know, I'm just doing what I do, just making short stories and, you know, keeping these guys together for a podcast every so often. And, you know, we chop it up. If anybody's actually seen that, Beef, Wine, and Shenanigans, us doing our thing, you know.
Got that up.
Yes.
Yeah.
There. Look at that.
Beat me to it, Jim. Yeah. Yeah. Those are some great conversations. Yeah.
I mean,
cool.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Cool.
I got let's see. Oh yeah, I got I've been working on a story for Denise for a long time now.
Yes.
So it's almost done. Got
Very
some for her. I was in issue 1 of Oliver Brackenberry's New Age Sword and Soul, Sword and Sorcery magazine. So and he requested me back for issue 4.
Oh,
So
nice.
I have one coming out in issue 4. They were doing the he was doing a backer campaign for it now, and he just released the cover on Facebook, and the covers from my story, which actually
Nice feature. Yeah.
Thank you, Oliver Brackenberry. Yes,
Fantastic.
So doing that and putting and we talked, Steve, a while back, and yes, I do have the right Cosmic Kara story for the third Hell of the Way Station.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yes, and I'd love to tell you the title. You want to hear the title?
Sure.
All right. The title is "A Spoonful of Sugar Helps the Universe Burn Down."
Oh, wow.
So that's the title.
Ooh.
Nice.
That's the title.
Well,
And it's
if
and
that,
I would
if
like
that
to say,
doesn't get them reading, I don't know.
and I'd like to say it is Donald Goines meets Lovecraft.
Nice.
So didn't know those motherfuckers even knew how to hang out with each other, but you know what? I'm gonna put them together. So that's what that is.
It sounds tentacular, really. Yeah.
that's yeah. That's
awesome.
I've got the first in a series coming out from Crossroad Press later this year. Not Born of Woman. It's the first Paradise Investigation.
Oh. Okay.
And right now, Journey to Storm Rest, the first book in the Chronicles of Altiva, speaking of world building, is up for an award at Pulp Factory.
Very nice.
Congratulations.
You can look it up on Amazon, read it, and then think about voting for it. So, there.
Yes, sir.
Electioneering.
Yeah, go look at the Pulp Factory group. That's how you vote for it. Yeah.
Is that your campaign speech? Wait, is that your campaign pitch, man?
That's it. Yep. A yam in every pot.
You know what? Well, after your reading, actually, I'll vote for you. Whatever.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah.
After that reading you did, I'll vote for you. Whatever.
I don't care what he's saying. I just want to listen to the words. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Who else? What else is coming up?
No, I think
everybody went through it.
Do we have another?
You guys do.
You two.
Yeah.
We have a beef wine and shenanigans
Jim?
coming up soon, right?
Oh yeah. When tell everybody when they air, because that's the other thing.
Usually what happens is, well, we've been kind of like dealing with different scheduling things lately,
Yeah.
and I got shipped off to Vegas for a week, and
As you
Poor
do.
you.
as I do.
Like a margin.
He said, "Poor you." Oh, the shade Marc Abbott gives me.
Oh shit! Oh man.
It's all good. So we're trying to get back to a schedule where we're doing at least 2 episodes a month.
Yeah.
And what usually happens is we get together on Sunday night, because that's usually when no one's looking for any of us. And and then we chop it up, and then we start posting it.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So stay tuned for some new Beef Wine and Shenanigans soon. Basically.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I think we want to give a shout out to a couple of other folks from our New York crew who have an event coming up in March, right, Carol? This is Saturday.
Yes, a Night of Horror. It's at this new bookstore called Stanza Books in Beacon, New York. And it's on Saturday, March 9th from 8 to 9 p.m. And Sam Rebling and Clay McLeod Chapman are going to be in conversation with Hudson Valley horror maven Christine Harold. And a bunch of us went up to an event there previously that John Langwin and Christoph were reading at, and oh man, it was great. It's a cool bookstore, and they're very focused on horror, and I love everything they're doing. So it's a short train ride out of New York. It's not immediately around the corner, but it's not all the way upstate. So those in the area, please take a look and support some of our other horror peeps. So that'd be great.
Yeah.
What are you
Also next month, we're going to be resuming our regular transmissions on March 14th, with a very exciting lineup to join us. Liam Burke, Philip Fracassi, and Ronald Malfi will be joining us to do some readings and Q&A in March.
Yeah.
But March is going to be even bigger and better than we expected. I think we can announce this, Carol. We're going to be doing a double shot of Galactic Terrors in that month.
Well, Megan Arcuri and I are going to host a special Women in Horror Month program, and that'll be on Wednesday, March 20th. Just the way it worked out for the calendar, we realized it's Women in Horror Month, and we've got 3 guys coming on for the Galactic Terrors, which we don't normally do. Is just the way things worked out. So, Megan and I have done these gatherings and readings in the past through different venues and such like that. So we'll be announcing our folks very soon, and that'll be on a Wednesday as opposed to a Thursday. So who knows? We may get some people who aren't able to make Thursdays tune in live. So that'll be fun.
Very nice.
Yeah. So
Look forward
that'll
to
be
that.
cool. Yeah. Now, Jim, what do you have coming up in terms of books and stuff like that? Are you working on anything? I know you've been busy with a few projects.
Oh,
I like that blank face.
yeah, that pregnant pause.
I had to think about. I'm working on so many things. And I had to think about
What's a
can
book?
I say? But I do have stories coming up in some new steampunk anthologies from eSpec Books. And I will have a story in the Chaos Clock, which is a mashup of cosmic horror and steampunk, coming out in a few months, I think. I'm not exactly sure what the release dates will be. And there are two other steampunk books, anthologies coming along, Other Ether and A Cry of Hounds. And
oh, wow.
got the chance to write stories for those. And my story for A Cry of Hounds is a steampunk story centered around the Barghest, a sort of devil hound that is an omen of death.
Yeah.
Which I had a lot of fun with. So, yeah, so then I was kind of in like steampunk land at the moment.
Yeah. And a couple of us also have stories in the Chaos Clock. Teel and I have ones in there as well. So we're really looking forward to this coming out. And that'll be a lot of fun when it hits. I have a short story out recently in an anthology called Tangle and Fen. And this is a series from Chrome Girls Press. It's dark fiction stuff. Mine is all about mealworms, and I got to read it out loud. There we go. Thank you, Jen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got to read this. I got to read the whole story up at a gathering of a bunch of horror writers up in Portsmouth for Christopher Golden's newest book, and it was so much fun because watching by the end of it, people are like, it was so much fun, And I have a short story in a Edgar Allan Poe inspired anthology coming out called Nevermore, coming out from Falstaff Books, and that should be in the late spring. So I'm looking forward to that.
Wow.
So
Nice.
So yeah, we're all doing some really cool stuff, and everything's slightly different, but everything overlaps. It's very cool. Very cool. Yeah,
Wow.
You folks are
minds and all
fabulous.
that.
Yeah, it's like we like to do this or something. Yeah,
It keeps us off the streets.
Yeah.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, right. I'm for the streets, yo.
I'm going to take my laptop
somewhere.
Street now, Teel, and write just to be contrary.
I want to see a new story about street yams. Come on, guys. Yeah.
Street yams.
Go to Instagram.
I don't want to know.
Go to Instagram.
The yams are on the street. Yeah. They escape
the
from grocery store.
The zucchinis have a beef with them, and then
right.
And then
don't mention the yuccas.
Then this pretty yam falls in love with a dashing zucchini. Oh wait, they did that already.
Yeah, but nobody ever sees the turnips coming.
Right.
Wow.
Those damn turnips.
I'm gaining weight just from all this talk of starch. Come on, guys. This is so much fun talking with everybody.
Yeah.
Well, fun stuff.
So, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Thank you for sharing your work and reading. SVP, thank you for doing this project and doing something to raise awareness about suicide and prevention and encouraging people to reach out for help when they need it.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank all of you, because I can't do this in a vacuum. I need help. That's certainly what happened here tonight, and and it just I'm not normally the sentimental type. Okay, I'm lying. I'm actually kind of like I'm the dude that has to go see movies alone first just to make sure people don't see me crying or whatever. But no, that's the original Color Purple. Oh my god. But seriously, this is as much of a mentally taxing undertaking as this is, just kind of like being in that space and thinking about this. Again, I feel supported by my tribe in this endeavor, very much so, and I thank you all.
You're welcome.
And I think that's very much what the SAVE organization does, is provide a network, just like you have, a network of your writers and your friends and your community, and they offer programs that do the same for people, a way to reach out. So
yes,
it's
they
awesome.
totally do.
Yeah, terrific. Well,
Right.
thanks, everyone.
Thank you to everybody out there who joined us tonight. Thank you for your questions.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Absolutely.
And hung in for the whole time. And we ran late tonight because we had too many awesome people, but that's okay. It's cool.
This was a great conversation, great stories. So this was a great special presentation for us. Thank you again.
Yeah.
And we hope to see you all soon on the next Galactic Terrors and other upcoming transmissions. I put the links in the chat, so please do sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to our YouTube channel, send us, mental emanations through the night, whatever it is you need to do, but keep in touch, everybody, and have a great night.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, and pick this baby up.
Yes.
Seriously.
Yes.
Good night, everybody. Yep.
And everybody, yeah. And you all authors, hang on for a second when we're done here. Thanks.
All right.
All right.
Sure.